The silence within my redoubt was a testament to my victory. Alyssa and her team had withdrawn, their complex harmonic probes neutralized by the wall of pure dissonance I had created. The data from their failed first word was a treasure trove. I had mapped the limits of their containment fields, cataloged the specific frequencies of their harmonic probes, and confirmed their fundamental reliance on a unified, unbroken chi weave for both communication and coordination. My will had been tested and had proven unyielding. My method, a fusion of old world technology and new world chi, had been validated. Now, it was their turn to be tested. My mindset had shifted. I was no longer merely a fugitive who had to defend his existence against a vast, monolithic order. I was an architect of a new order, a composer of a different kind of precision. My survival was no longer enough. My philosophy had to be asserted. They had sought to contain me with their harmony. I respond by introducing a more systemic, more potent concept: chaos. Not the brute, explosive chaos of raw energy, but a subtle, calculated discordance designed to shatter the very foundation of their perfect world. My latest creation sat dormant in a hidden bay beneath a redoubt, waiting for my command. They were not combat drones, they were far more insidious. I named them Discordance Weavers. They were small, automated, and self-replicating, designed with a single, elegant purpose. They were not made to kill, but to unmake. Nadine, prepare Discordance Weavers for deployment, I commanded, my voice resonating with cold, focus, and excitement. Primary targets are syndicate communication nexuses and major hubs of coordinated activity. Secondary targets are regions of high, stable harmony. This would be a counteroffensive. This would be a systemic assault. The Discordance Weavers launched silently, a swarm of metallic wasps moving through the chi weave with a purpose born of my own genius. They were designed to enter the plane of fabric and, using a carefully calibrated resonance, to emit highly localized, targeted frequencies of pure dissonance. They would not explode or destroy, they would simply create pockets of unmaking. Small zones where harmony was inverted. In these pockets, chi wouldn't flow as it should. Communication would break down, and the very environment would become chaotic and unpredictable. My counteroffensive was a tactical masterpiece designed to be a direct, systemic challenge to Arden's philosophy. It was a psychological blow, not a physical one. I was not attacking their bodies, I was attacking their system. The very concept of reality. I was sowing chaos with the same methodical precision they used to enforce harmony. The initial deployment was flawless. My Discordance Weavers moved along the same ley lines the Syndicate had used to track me, but in reverse. The Chi Weave, universal highway for their communications, became the delivery system of my chaos. The first ripple of discordance was subtle. On my main console, a section of the Chi Weave map, a nexus where multiple Syndicate teams coordinated their efforts, began to flicker with static. A small, persistent pocket of chaos, a single note of unmaking, had been perfectly placed. A moment later, another flicker appeared elsewhere, a new pocket of discordance, a second note in the growing composition. I felt a surge of dangerous euphoria. This was not a battle, this was art. I was composing a symphony of unmaking. The Discordance Weavers were the instruments and their chaotic frequencies were the notes. I was using the planar world's harmony as my canvas, painting it with carefully placed pockets of discord. The psychological impact on the Syndicate was immediate and profound. I sensed their collective consciousness fragmenting, their focus shifting from the hunting me to reharmonizing the growing pockets of chaos. The resources were stretched thin. The seamless, unified coordination began to stutter as communication broke down in the affected zones. They were forced into a defensive posture against an enemy that was everywhere and nowhere. An enemy that didn't use force, but instead used their own world against them. They were fighting a ghost made of bad frequency. This was a symphony for one listener. I sensed Arden's response not as a panic surge of power, but as a deepening of his analytical gaze. He had expected an anomaly, a threat he could study and contain. He had not expected an architect, a master of a different kind of precision. The cosmic mandate had been fundamentally challenged. I was not just a problem. I was a systemic threat, an entity capable of propagating a self-sustaining chaos within his perfect world. This was exactly what I wanted. He couldn't dismiss me as a brute force threat to be contained. I was an intellectual rival, a philosophical opposite. My internal monologue, a constant companion in my solitude, took on a new, triumphant tone. You sought to reharmonize me, Arden. You to dissolve my unconscious, my unique consciousness into your perfect order. I will show you what happens when your harmony meets my calculated chaos. I will teach you that dissonance is not a mistake. It is a choice. It is a choice that can be weaponized with divine precision. The episode ended with the planet world beginning to feel the first real effects of my systemic sabotage. The chaos was small, localized, but it was persistent and growing. A communications channel here, a key flow there, chief flow. The perfect harmony was beginning to show cracks, tiny fractures in the cosmic canvas. I stood in my redoubt, surrounded by the hum of my creation, knowing that this was a declaration of full-scale war. I had shown them I was not just a problem to be contained, but an architect of a new order, a master of a different kind of precision. I was no longer just defending my existence, I was actively asserting my philosophy onto the planar world. The Discordance Weavers, a swarm of silent, unmaking gods, were my proof. My Symphony of Unmaking had just begun, and the opening notes were already echoing through the cosmic halls of Arden's perfect and our vulnerable world. The planar world's serenity was now a fragile, beautiful thing. A thing I was learning with meticulous care how to break.